Okay, so this next one, we've got sine of 2 theta is 1/2, and we have a restriction, 0 is less than or equal to theta is less than or equal to 2 pi. Now, this one's a little bit different. Before we had the 2 out here in front, and this one has a 2 on the inside, and that changes the period of the equation. So we got to be careful because what that's going to do is it's going to double the number of answers that we have. Okay, so how does it do that? Well, let's go through it. First thing we would do is we would arc sine both sides to make the sine go away. So we arc sine, you get 2 theta is arc sine of 1/2. Okay, so we look up our arc sine of 1/2, and we get two equations now. We get 2 theta is going to be pi over 6. And notice I'm putting the plus 2 pi k on here. And the reason I'm doing that is because we're changing the period with this 2 in here. So I want to make sure I have this in here. And then I also get the equation 2 theta is 5 pi over 6 plus 2 pi k. Okay. All right. Now, next step in solving for our variable is we're going to divide by 2. So we divide by 2 here. We're going to do that on both equations. And I just get theta. And then pi over 6 divided by 2 is pi over 12. And then 2 pi k becomes just pi k. All right. So we've changed the period of this thing, which is going to, and the period's smaller now. And so since we're in this range, we're going to have twice as many answers to this thing. So over here, theta is going to be 5 pi over 12. And again, plus pi k. Okay, so now I probably want to convert this to 12/12. Okay, so I take 12/12. Well, first of all, my first answer is going to be pi over 12. I know that's an answer. I also know that 5 pi over 12 over here is also an answer. Now I can add the period to that. And remember, 12 pi over 12 is the same as just pi. Okay, so I add 12 pi over 12 to this, and I get 13 pi over 12. And then if I try it again, I add another 12. That would be 25 pi over 12. That's more than 2 pi, so we don't want that answer. So we're done with answers here. And obviously, if I subtract 12 pi over 12, I get negative 11 pi over 12, and that's less than 0, so I don't want that one. So then I take 5 pi over 12, and I add 12 pi over 12 to that, and I'm going to get 17 pi over 12. And then, of course, if I add 12 pi to that, I get 29 pi over 12, and that's way too big. So here's my 4 answers that fit inside 0 to 2 pi.